You are listening to the Cattle Call Podcast. This is the place where computer-aided design and drafting meets humor and practicality, with a touch of business acumen thrown in for fun. Jim and Rocco, the owners of Zentech Consultants, the premier U.S. technology consulting firm for architecture, engineering, construction, and manufacturing, discuss the fascinating world of CAD with some humor and some honesty. The Cattle Call Podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Cattle Call Podcast with Jim and Rocco from Zentech Consultants. I am Jim, your freakishly loud host, and with me, as always, is my partner,
Rocco.
Rocco, not nearly as loud, nor as entertaining, which is why, to start things off on the right foot, I always make him suffer through the engineering joke of the week. You ready, Rocco?
I'm ready.
All right, so I got another Jeff Foxworthy based engineering statement here, right? So here it is. You know how you might be an engineer? You might be an engineer if your spouse has to send you an email instead of calling you down to dinner. There you go. That's how you know if you're an engineer or not. Jeff Foxworthy style. Sad thing is you're laughing because we both get emails. It's like, oh, man. All right. So on today's show, I want to talk about the concept of improved working conditions and results, or what we're calling build a better employee. Look, no matter what any of us might wish, time and tide and technology march on, and we have to choose to keep up with all of those or be lost in the tide of advancement. In the design build world, technology and work conditions are becoming tighter bedfellows, and making sure your employees have the tools and the skills and the time that they need to be highly efficient while still maintaining a reasonable, work-life balance is vital. Now, look, before anybody listening starts rolling their eyes at me for spouting, new age, liberal, woke agenda items or whatever your concern is, let me break this down for you simply. Old people like me and Rocco, we're dying.
Hey, speak for yourself.
You're getting there, old man. You're getting there. You ain't that far behind me. And look, I'll be nice. Maybe we're not dying. Maybe we're just retiring. Let's say that's a happier word. And the younger generation, flat out, is not going to be 100-hour-a-week, wage slave so that they can cobble out a subsistence living. Right? Like that or not, agree with it or not, if you think it's laziness or cultural or educational or whatever stance that you have on that, it doesn't matter. Right? These are the facts. And if you guys don't adapt to them, you're going out of business. It's that simple. Right? Now, as it happens, I personally look at this as a great opportunity and not a problem. If you address your workers' needs, reasonably and fairly and with a little touch of technology, I think you're going to see some really huge benefits. Right? And what I want to talk about today is kind of how to adapt to these sea changes in our industry to develop more productive, happier, and far more loyal workers. Right? So Rocco, in your conversations with our clients, how many of them are struggling with both finding and retaining their workforce?
Yeah, it's been right an everyday thing. I mean, it's prior to the pandemic, during the pandemic, and now after the pandemic, it's still ongoing. And a lot of I see a lot of turnover too, right? Where it's like you're talking to somebody one week and you reach out to them the next week and they're gone. It's like, what that? So there's a lot of change that's going on, and I don't know. There's a lot of reasons for it, but it's happening. It's still happening. We'll see if it starts to slow down now with the economic changes that they're talking about. But I don't know that there really are economic changes. That's another point of discussion as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I said, I see it all the time too, both from, the software developers and the tech end have this problem, the construction companies, the design staff, everybody has the same issue. How do you maintain and build your staff and keep them, working hard for you over long periods of time? All right. So I'm going to start the answers, or what we think are the answers to that, with a topic that we've hit on a lot here on the Cattle Call, which is training. All right. And yes, it is a big part of our business here at Zentech. And I am just arrogant enough to believe that we do it better than anybody. But it's a vitally important tool that you can offer to your workers that directly benefits your company's productivity and output. All right. So look, according to research.com, almost 40% of employees rate training and the potential for growth it gives them as one of their top 3 workplace concerns. All right. It lags only a percentage point or 2 in the survey below both pay and health benefits. All right. That tells you just how big an issue this really is, right? It's very important to people to feel that they're getting, recognition, and they're being, groomed for career advancements, and they're enhancing their professional skills. Okay. And every hour of training has a traceable positive impact on your bottom line. Right. So I was looking at, how is that a negative? Right. At the end of the day, you're going to get better output by better trained staff. You're going to make more money, and your workers are going to be happier and feel that they're being appreciated and that they're being trained for bigger and better things. Right. Now, here's the problem. Right. The problem is in that same survey that I was talking about, nearly 50%, right, full half of the employees feel that their management makes their training a very low priority. Okay, that's a problem. Right? We all need to take a careful look at our own companies and see if that simple change can help turn around our labor force drainage issues. So Raka, how big a part of our business is training, particularly for technologies in the design and build areas?
Yeah, I think that it's about 40% of what we do day in and day out is training, and it's interesting because it was a couple months ago I was talking to a manager within a civil engineering firm, and she says to me, I don't get it. She could tell she was like really frustrated. She's like, I'd love to see people take training, the courses that you guys offer. And she says, but management has this crazy idea that if you train people, they're going to leave.
Yeah. Oh, Lord.
It's just like,
oh, Lord.
Okay.
Right, how many times have you heard me tell, right, the old story, right? What happens if we train them and they leave? What happens if you don't train them and they stay? That's way worse.
Yeah.
It is nuts.
Yeah, so it's so it was a very frustrating point for her. But it's yeah, I mean you think about it too. It's we all get bored of what we do every whether it's work or life. I mean, so you throw training in the mix, and it actually adds more diversity to what employees are doing day in and day out. It's not just about productivity gains and growth for the company. It's about personal satisfaction as well, right? That, hey, the company is investing in you. They trust enough in you to invest money in you, and it means a lot to employees.
Yeah, it's a huge thing, and like you said, maybe to the employee it's a benefit to them, but I still think it's a huge benefit for the employer as well, right? But look, the key to good training is, of course, it's in the process, right? If what you're doing is buying, pre-packaged off-the-shelf training or some hosted service out there with, unlimited access to these short recordings that are designed to deliver what they call this just-in-time concept of answering specific questions, look, you're going to be disappointed. There really is no way around that. I think it's vital that you guys go out and you find live instructors, right? Either virtually or in person. And I actually prefer virtual, right? But I'm gonna talk about that in the second half of the show, why I prefer virtual training. The important thing here is that your people need hands-on experience, right? Not only that, but you need training that focuses more than on just how to use a certain piece of software and what buttons to push. right? When you get these, so-called training, right, from the software developers or one of their resellers, 9 out of 10 times, your teacher is an entry-level tech who took a certification course on, how to use their system, right? And they're teaching the class from a pre-written script, right? It's all canned, repetitive nothing. And I think that's where the frustration for a lot of managers comes in, right? They're investing a lot of money, but I think investing in that kind of training doesn't really help anybody. And that may be, sound strange to hear from a technical consultant, right? I'm bashing technology training. But I'm hitting on a bad process here, I think, and not the overall concept. The concept is vital. The process, not that good if that's where you're looking. And I think what you want is to get a trainer or engage with a trainer, right, who has real world experience in your industry and focuses on how to use your technology and your software to address your work processes, right? And not just, which button do I push? That's not going to help your guys. Okay, Rocco, here's where I'm going to let you go ahead and get a plug in for Zentech today. How do we present our training, and does it meet the criteria that I just laid out?
Yeah, we do have, real world use of case scenarios, right, where our instructors have used or are using the software out in the field day to day. And so they're able to apply it to the classes that they teach. And we break out our classes into 2-hour sessions once a week. Most classes are 8 hours in length, and we deliver it live. So you're able to ask questions of an instructor and follow along as the class goes on. And it's 2 hours, right? So you're able to digest and then go back and get back to work and start to apply what you learn and come back from week to week with any questions that you might have. We also give access to the recording of each class session for 7 days. So each student can go back and review the recording if they should miss any content or miss the entire session or just want to review the content. So it's definitely proven very fruitful for us, and it's a unique way of doing it, and a lot of people like it, and so that's our spiel.
There you go. That's the spiel for today. All right, so now that our spiel's in, let's take a break to hear from today's sponsor, and when we get back, I want to get into our second focus for building a better employer. Right, so stay by, folks. We'll be back in just a minute with more of the Cattle Call Podcast. Hello everybody, this is Jim and Rocco with Zentech Consultants, and we wanted to talk to you today about Bluebeam Review, the premier quantity takeoff estimating and markup software for PDF out there on the market today. And at Zentech, we are a premier Bluebeam partner here in the US. We're here to help you guys with all your Bluebeam needs, from software sales to training, consulting, configuration, and everything in between in all things Bluebeam, from the standard version to the extreme version and anything else you might need. So, in terms of Bluebeam, Rocco, how do people reach out to us if they want to start that conversation?
Yeah, just hit up our website, give us a ring, or send us an email, or through Osmosis. That works too.
Osmosis is good.
Yeah, zentechconsultants.net. or sales@zentechconsultants.net, or give us a ring, 866-824-4459.
All right, Zentech Consultants, your home for all of your Bluebeam software needs. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Cattle Call Podcast. We are talking about building better employees today, and in this half of the show, I want to focus on using technology to make your employees' lives easier, right? Now, if you do this right, you're going to increase your profits at the same time, right? It's a win-win, right? And look, you don't even have to tell folks you're increasing your production and efficiency. You just give them some positives, and then you sit back and reap the benefits, right? So let's start my diatribe here today with a bold statement, okay? If you are not letting your people work from home, either full-time or hybrid, you're an idiot. Look, I know not every job can be done remotely, right? Field supervisors, etc. They need to be on site regularly, and your laborers certainly do. But for 80% of the job titles in the design build world, we can get folks out of the office at least 1 day a week, and more is better. Right? Every single legitimate study done shows that workers are far more productive, happier, and less likely to lose or to change their jobs, right, when they have the option to work from home at least part of the time, right? And their productivity goes up the more days that they get to work remote. Okay, so look, now I know I stress the word legitimate here because there are studies out there that argue exactly the opposite. Right? You'll see them and they use these lovely terms like, there's loss of culture and there's lack of mentoring and there's interpersonal disassociation. And let me put it bluntly. Every one of these studies is backed by a middle management focused support organization, right? It's the HR people and the mid managers, man. Why? Because the only people who need other people in the office are middle managers. If nobody is there, it becomes very evident we don't need middle managers because that's all they really do. Okay. So yeah, you guys can tell I've got a very distinct opinion on this. So Rocco, look, we've been 100% remote work since our inception, way back in 16, right? Way before COVID. Has that been a positive, do you think, for us and our employees, or have you actually seen issues with having a fully remote staff?
Yes.
Well, that was a great answer. Thank you for joining us.
No, look, it's there's a lot of ways to think about it, right? I mean, from a personal standpoint, I work like 12, 14 hours a day, and I still, if I had a choice, I prefer to personally be in an office. Oh
my God, really?
I don't know, something about hanging out with you, Jim.
You hung out with me for years before we started Zentech. You hated it. Come on.
No, so from that aspect on a personal level, I do miss the social aspect of being around people. But from a satisfaction standpoint, yeah, I do think that people are happier, having that flexibility, right, to be able to either fully work from home or to have that hybrid. But it also takes trust, right? I mean, do we have issues from time to time? Sure. It's a natural thing, right? I mean, when you're home, you have home distractions, so, there's a level of trust that you have to have in people as well. I mean, you have to look at their productivity. Are they being productive? At the end of the day, are they being productive? And that's I think the most important thing to look at if you're a business owner. So those are, just a kind of a couple random points from my perspective.
Yeah. No, I'm actually surprised. I'm actually, despite being a really loud, gregarious guy, I'm generally an introvert. I actually much prefer working from home where I ain't got to deal with people all day. And I will say, just from my standpoint, I think you have those same issues no matter what. There's always, the woman who is chatting with her friend down the hall 6 hours a day. And there's the guy who's, sitting by the water cooler for 2 hours every morning. You know what I mean? You always got to watch employees and make sure they're being productive. So I think that's the same no matter what. But look, I think if we put aside kind of all the fancy terminology and the fears over, massive changes here and be realistic, right? When you can shave 2 to 4 hours a day off of someone's workday just by eliminating their commute, they are going to be much more okay with putting in a few extra hours here and there to meet deadlines and make sure that things are being done right. All right. I really do believe if you keep on expecting them to do that extra work and go the extra mile and be the company person, and you're forcing them to commute and to spend their own money on gas and tolls, etc., they are going to resent the hell out of you when you ask them for that extra level of work. To me, it really is that simple, right? And modern technology makes all of this really easy to do, right? We all know at this point, files can be safely and securely stored in the cloud, right, at far less cost and far less effort than dealing with on-premises servers, right? Collaboration and meetings and markups and all the technologies that we use in this industry have made themselves easily adaptable for remote work, right? One of the things that, we've seen a lot of our larger clients focusing on over the last few years has been the consistency of shared data with a remote workforce, right? And look, we know COVID drove a lot of this, but I think that the smarter companies are seeing a huge potential benefit here that they can provide to their workers at almost no cost while really increasing their production and output. So Rocco, how often do we work with clients to help set up, collaborative systems? And do you see those amount of jobs increasing or decreasing now that COVID restrictions are pretty much over?
Oh, the collaboration part is an everyday thing. I mean, it's just it's important, right? And I think as construction in particular, right, has lagged in terms of adopting technology, but they're catching up, right? And so they're looking for companies like us to help with that collaboration. Whether it be in Procore or in Bluebeam Studio or in Teams or SharePoint. It's a huge part of what we do, and do I see it increasing? Yeah, I think so. Particularly within construction, again, where there's been that lag in adoption of technology.
Yeah, I think they're finally starting to catch up, at least on this side of things, and realizing what it is we're talking about here today. So I think that's a positive. All right, so look, I said in the top half of the show that I was a big fan of virtual training, and I think it ties into this concept of remote work and better procedures, I guess, for employee improvement and retention. Look, it's a great example, right? When you do things like offer classes online, I think you're doing two big things. First, you're going to eliminate a ton of overhead costs, right, for travel and meals and so on. And second, and I think more importantly, you eliminate an absolute ton of downtime. And what I mean by that, the real cost of training, right, is always the loss of billable time for your employees, right? That can be as much as 8 to 10 times the cost of the actual training. Virtual training and virtual meetings and communications, right, and even daily work, that are being handled this way provide immense profits alongside of much happier workers. To my thinking, the best way to, what we're talking about today, build a better worker, is to give them an environment where they're happy, they feel valued for their work, and they make a decent wage. And look, that last, right, making the good wage, that isn't always achievable in a direct financial sense. And believe me, as small business owners, Rocco and I fully appreciate how tight you need to keep overhead and salary. It goes crazy fast through the roof and into your expenses. But remote work, though, costs very little when all of the tech that we use in this industry already supports it. Right? It's the basis of giving your employees the equivalent of a 25 to 30% savings each week just on their travel time and costs, which they love, right? And by investing in things like virtual trainings and so on, you're showing them that they are still valued members of your staff while you're actually improving, right, your output and product, right? So, Rocco, what kind of impact has remote work and some extra vacation days had on our employee retention here at Zentech, right? And has it been as a good counterpoint in place of massive raises?
Yeah, well, like you said, it's not always about the money, right? I mean, it's about all around just satisfaction, being able to have a flexible schedule, being able to, get a few extra vacation days, being able to have a little bit of a longer holiday, that goes a long way, as much as, a lot of people talk, well, it's money talks. It's not only about the money. If you don't have satisfaction, you could be making $200,000 a year, and if you're working 70 hours a week and stressed, beyond belief, and working 350 days a year, good is it? You know, so
Yeah, you just described my job, and I ain't making nowhere near 200 grand a year. So, that's the problem with being a business owner. You don't get that choice. So look, I guess I'll try and sum it up today by saying that, in my opinion, right, there's no possible way to mess this up if you're just willing to try it. And I suggest that everybody listening even look into the idea, I'm going to startle you guys here, of a 4-day work week. It's something I'm going to hassle Rocco about over the next year or two. Because study after study shows that it is a massive efficiency booster when you maintain the same 5-day pay rate. You just can't cut people's pay to 4 days and go, that's all we're working. You keep them paying for 5, let them work 4. All right. And I also say, look at closing the office with pay when you can. And I will say that was a huge boost for us here at Zentech, right? With our employee satisfaction. We actually close our office between Christmas and New Year, right? With full pay for all of our employees. Why? Look, the reality is in this industry, there is nobody around then anyway. There's nothing to do, right? So we could force our people to work and not be productive, right? Or we could give them the time off and they'd still not be productive. Either way, I'm going to pay them to not be productive. So this way, I get happy employees who like working for me instead of angry people who resent being stuck in an office chair all week instead of, playing with their kids and whatever new toys they got for the holiday. And it didn't cost me a dime, right? Those are the kind of things that y'all need to think about, folks. All right, so with that, I'm going to wrap it up here and I'm going to get us out of here. Rocco, anything you want to throw in before we bounce?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so? All right, folks, we'll catch you next time on the Cattle Call Podcast. All right, everybody, today's Cattle Call was brought to you courtesy of Zentech Consultants. That's Rocco and I. Zentech Consultants works with design and manufacturing firms to help our clients purchase and implement the software that they need in these complex industries. We provide a single point of contact for clients to buy, develop, and learn the most vital software systems for your specific needs. Zentech strives to be your trusted technology partner from your initial needs all the way through long-term support and training for your entire staff. So Rocco, why don't you tell them how to reach out to Zentech?
All right, yeah, you can reach out to us through zentechconsultants.net. You can email us at sales@zentechconsultants.net, or you can even call us 866-824-4459.
Excellent. We look forward to hearing from y'all.